Hello everybody, welcome to the Longbangers podcast. I'm Matty and I'm joined tonight by John. John, how are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm actually getting chewed by the dog at the moment. He's taking a liking to my hand, so you'll have to excuse me if I scream out in anger, and frustration, and fear, and pain.
What kind of dog have you got?
You're going to make a joke about this, but he's a cockapoo, and his name's Murphy, after a very talented Hibs left back,
Lewis Stevenson.
Yep.
Nice one. We saw an advert on, it was like a picture of an advert on Facebook earlier on, so I was scrolling and it was somebody selling a dog. And the caption is like, when you don't know how to spell the breed of dog that you've got. And it was Shih Tzu.
Yeah,
like the woman, Shih Tzu. Anyway, right, we've also got Craig with us tonight. Craig, how are you doing?
Hi, very good. Just chilling out. Nothing much has changed.
Can we start introducing Craig as the audio-visual expert on the podcast?
Expert?
No.
The sound guy, then you can take that whichever way you want. It's not quite as nice as the guy in the hospital. No, quite as nice as the guy in the hospital. He's the ultrasound guy. What was it we had asked for folk for topics for tonight, and Neil Renton says that his mate was starting a small electrical business, so he asked if we'd give him a wee plug. Love jokes like that, magic. There was another thing, we'd got a delivery in the day, so because it's summer and we've got the windows all the time, you get flies in. The house that they kind of use are the same, so Jane ordered some fly spray that said on the can, avoid the eyes, and I thought, how the fuck are you meant to be that accurate with it?
Have you ever had fly strips in your house?
Nah, I've never found them that erotic, to be fair.
Well, moving on.
Oh dear.
I think you have, John.
I remember them once when I was younger, when I stayed in a place called Mid Calder in Livingston, and I was only maybe like 5 or 6 year old at the time, and it was at the age where the biscuits were out of reach. They were up in the cupboard, but not so far out of reach that I couldn't climb up on the worktops and get them. So I'd be up there first thing in the morning, still bleary-eyed, and I'd end up walking into these bloody fly strips and having to fucking peel them off my face.
Nice.
That's what the parents called them, fly strips.
Oh God, I don't know what it might have been otherwise.
Oh no. Right,
bear with me a second. I'm going to chuck this Doug out the dining room because he's properly chewing my fingers now.
So
you two carry on.
It's all right. Jane just handed me her phone there to say that HSL had got over 500 new contributors, because we've been doing the wee campaign about it, or you've maybe seen that on Twitter. So it must be going well. It's the first time I've had live breaking news on the podcast. Well done, HSL.
And it's for somebody that isn't on the podcast.
Aye,
just to show how shite we are.
That was a good interruption. Right, Hibs. This week in the news for cutting costs. Who wants to start on that one, and what are your thoughts, John?
Needs must. That's about all I've got to say about it.
That's good. Do you know what? I was on to somebody earlier on. It was on the Sports Sound thread on Hibsnet, moaning about the lack of in-depth analysis that they did on subjects, particularly reconstruction. Right? I was like, they had this totally myopic view. It was all viewed through the lens of Hearts and relegation. It was like criticising them for lack of analysis. And here we are, 2 minutes into the podcast. And what do you think of this? Needs must.
Well, if I was going to put a positive spin on it, if there is anyone that is used to cost cutting, that's used to tightening the belt strings and looking forward to Jam tomorrow, then certainly it's Hibs fans. If anything, because of the practice that we've had of this stuff in the past, you'd kind of hope that we come out of this much stronger than anyone else.
You would hope so, eh? Do you know what's frustrating about it is we were in such a good position. If you think back to the podcast we did after the AGM, And everything looked like it was going to be amazing. You know, there's all these grand plans. We're getting the big screen up. Easter Road's going to look completely different. We're going to be doubling the wage budget over however many years. And then, bang, coronavirus comes. And
when was the AGM? Was that late February?
Be about then. I can't remember exactly. Late February, early March, around about that time.
Aye, have we not been in lockdown since early March? So there was maybe only about a fortnight when, maybe 3-4 weeks then, where it was actually where things looked good at Easter Road. We were talking about big TVs and advertising on the middle gantry level in the West Stand, and now here we are. We're fucked. We've got no money.
Can't even get in to wash your hands in cold water.
Fuck, I was looking forward to triple play Andrex and we dock leaves in the bogs now.
I think that sums it up perfectly for me. From a point of view, I think a lot of the kind of backlash towards the club is probably because it happened at the time it did. It was like, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a horrible pandemic and all the stuff that goes along with that. We don't need to comment on that, but in the terms of Hibs, I think it happened at the kind of worst time for fans, because somebody's came in, they've started. Well, he had his time to think, which he said he would do. He came out with this plan, which sounded really good, and it didn't sound too, oh, we're going to go win the league next year. Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't too extravagant. It was like, this is what I would like to happen. It might not, but this is what my vision is, and this is how I think it'll pan out. And it was all looking good, and then it happened. So everybody seems to think, hang on a minute, we've got all this money. Why all of a sudden are we now in all this trouble? And I think that was probably also partially due to the fact that Hearts came out day one and started saying, right, you're taking wage cuts, or else we're bringing the lawyers in and we're terminating your contract, and we were giving them a ribbon, which I still think is right, because it wasn't so much the fact that they had to do it, it was how it happened. It was
the way they went about it.
It was the complete cutthroat. Oh, she's a visionary, she's seen it. No, she overspent, and all right, she might have realised early doors that they couldn't sustain it, but everybody else could see that. You know what I mean? They had 5 managers on the go, 35 fucking players on about 12 grand a week or something daft like that, and they were still bottom because they're shite. But it wasn't so much that they had to cost cut. I think everybody knew that cost cutting was coming, but it was just the way it panned out.
I think at that point you couldn't tell how long, how long it was going to impact football or society. Would it be in 6 weeks and then we're back to kind of business as usual, or like now they're talking about not having fans in the stadiums until next year. One of the things that struck me with what's happening is the sort of suspicion around where the money's gone that you see online, and we were kind of talking about it just before we started the podcast tonight about how the money's not necessarily spent, but it's like if you got your whole year's wage in January and you still knew you had to cover your bills every month, that you can't then go and spend. If you've spent all that money by the end of January, you're fucked. You're having to borrow or cut costs all the rest of the time. All Hibs have done now is looked ahead and went, right, if we didn't do something now, we're going to be in a bad position further down the line.
I think we spoke about it in our wee WhatsApp group, and the numbers, they're close, but you had your AGM notes from a previous podcast. I think it was player wages were about 4.5 million for the year of 2018, 2019, or whatever it is.
6.3.
Was that the player wages? Was it?
Well, all staff wages.
Staff wages, and then it was like 4.5 on everything else. And then it was like we had a 10.5 million turnover or something like that. So it basically worked out we were running about even, maybe a little bit under, maybe a little bit over, but pretty much bang on the money. If the club, as they say, they're expecting to lose half of that income, you're already on a loss.
Straight away.
So you already know that next year, no matter what signings or whatever you make, you've already lost, say, for instance, if it was the same figures, about 5 million quid. So this isn't us turning around and saying we're skint, shit's hit the fan, we're going under. This is just preventative. It's just a business coming around and saying, right, look, we thought we were going to have this, we're not going to have this. so we're going to take measures to prevent us entering into trouble or entering into debt.
Aye.
You know,
there's one of the things I'd like a line of thought I had with it was if you were Ron Gordon, right, you've bought this football club and you've got grand plans for it, and you present the plans and it looks really, really positive, and then something like this happens. I suppose you've got two choices. You could spend the money that you were going to invest on growing the club now to prop it up, or you could say, right, cut everything back while we're in this situation, because this situation isn't going to last forever. Like, we will be back in the stadium at some point. The turnover will go back to pre-coronavirus levels at some point, and the business can sustain the size of club that we are at the moment when we're back up to that bit. So it doesn't need any extra money to grow back to where we are now. If you've not spent your money propping the club up now, you can still spend that money once we're back to the position we're in now and grow the club.
And if something does happen further down the line, which prevents us from earning further and further, that's still a safety net. That money that you were planning on building tellies and all that and doubling the wage bill and all that money's there to keep the club going. And would you rather we go out and spend it all and then a second wave comes? You never know. It could happen in a year, it could happen in 2 years, comes and then it wipes. You know what I mean? It's just, it seems to be smart business.
I wonder if the solution is to stick a wee 14-inch in the corner rather than a 50-inch plasma.
and just give everybody binoculars.
Bring your own headphones.
That
would be a beautiful bit of spin if you managed that.
One of the things that made me laugh, I suppose is the right word for it, is so it was unfortunate time when the story broke on Monday about Hibs having to meet with the players and discuss wage cuts. And it was about 2 hours after it had been confirmed that everybody had pied reconstruction. And as a result of that, you had Hearts fans who, obviously jumping on the fact that we were struggling a bit, but making the connection as if it was down to them not being in the league. And you're going, you're fucking mental. There's like a global pandemic. There's no crowds. And like, even if you were still in the league, he's on the coming to Easter Road. We're not getting any gate receipts off you. Rangers aren't coming. We're still going to have to cut costs. But they seem to think it was because they got relegated that all these clubs are having to kind of cut back.
That's the mysterious far-reaching power of the maroon pound.
the maroon pound.
Cash cow's been broken.
Yeah, can I ask the two of you guys and the hundreds of thousands of listeners that we've got, can we promise that if we ever find ourselves in that situation that we never come out with some shite like the green pound?
The green
Just
pound.
Get that to fuck.
Get it in the sea. Right, so we're talking about the academy as well, Craig. One of the stories Sky Sports News were reporting that they were going to kind of hold the academy or get rid of it. What do you make of that decision?
Well, we've had some communication. Not going to name any names or whatever. Through yourself, and we've talked about it, and it's not getting binned. It's what's the way to put it?
Mothballed or mothballed.
Well, it's been put on hold, and it's not been put on hold due to like financial strain or anything like that. What people need to remember is, and I'm not trying to preach here, but they're only just getting professional football back in dribs and drabs by doing all this 30 grand a week testing or however much it's costing clubs to do the COVID testing. No fans in the stadium. They're not going to have the youth team out kicking a ball about, like, you know what I mean?
With the parents dropping them off and everybody in and out of the training centre.
Exactly. And
is it akin to when, say, we go on holiday and we switch the sockets off and we make sure everything's locked and the fridge is empty and that kind of thing? Like, that's basically what they've done.
You find the gas isolation and that just so it can't get you.
You just make sure that the place is safe and secure. You go away for a while, you come back. The only difference is we go on holiday, they're keeping the place closed so the kiddies don't get coronavirus.
Aye, and it's and the other thing as well. I mean, I don't know how I've never been to the training centre. I don't know if the youth team train there as well, or they use different buildings or what have you. I would guess they do, but
they do, yeah.
We don't know how training and that's going to look like for the squad. like, you know, different changing rooms, different rooms. So that building's going to be completely different to what it usually is. People are going to be, so they wouldn't be able to have all those people in and out the training centre at the one time. That'll all be controlled and all that sort of malarkey. So
That's a fair shout.
I mean, I think again, the problem, because all this news has came out at once, it's been like, Hearts get relegated. We're on the firing line giving them fucking shit that they deserve. And then the next thing, there's bad news about us. And then people start getting angry because they've been given pelters and they can't take it back. I mean, fucking grow up. If you want to give pelters, you need to be able to take it, don't you? But it's all just kind of stumbled on itself. It's all like, it's got what's like, oh, we've run out of money. Oh, they're shutting the academy. The kids aren't getting to play. Oh fuck, we're calm down, man. Just take a step back. The everything that Hibs are doing at the moment is to protect the club and the first team, which is the biggest seller. So
I think they put in the statement at the start of the week that they're prioritising the first team, you know, having a successful first team. And really that's the right thing to do if you think about it. What do we all pay our money to go and see? It's to go and watch the first team try and win football matches. So if you can only spend money on a limited amount of things, spend it on the most important thing and then see where you are at the other side of it. But it's not just us. I mean, you see Aberdeen, they were talking about having an £8 or £9 million gap between now and the end of the season. And that's huge. It's came at a really bad time for them with this whole new stadium and all that, like, you know. But fuck talking about them. This is about Hibs. But what I've been trying. We talked about a little bit about it, John, about because like before all the figures were given to me and you described it to me, Matty, because I'm not really a kind of financial guy. And although now looking back on it, it is simple to see. It's plain as day to me anyway. I was probably in the position that other people are, where they don't really understand it and they don't know what's going on. And what I would like at the time, before I kind of calmed down a bit and put it all together, I was like, where are we losing half our revenue from if we've got so many season tickets, shirt sales and that? And I was like, surely, you know, food on the day, I know it's extortionate at Easter Road, but food on the day can't be propping up half the amount of money. But it's not just that, it's like walk up, isn't it? It's walk up, it's people buying in the shop and that as well. And the figures that the club are coming out saying we're going to lose half our revenue, that will be the worst case scenario. They've got to work off the worst case scenario. Yeah. They can't think, oh, hopefully, whatever. So the club might. So season tickets, for example, they're going to be streaming online. I'm guessing via Hibs TV. Season ticket holders will be able to get it. There might be a deal done that walk-up tickets might be able to be bought online. So people that would normally go to the game, maybe they might be able to. I don't know if this is true or not. This is just me kind of throwing ideas out. That would maybe cut some of the revenue losses, and there'll be other things that the media team and the club itself will try to do. But losing half the income, I think it's got to be like the worst case scenario that they have to work off of. Well, the thing you got to remember, right, is so Hibs will generate revenue through the week by using Easter Road Stadium, right? So for events, for I know they do weddings and parties and all that kind of thing, conferences. That's gone. Right? So you can't do that. You can't have any folk coming into the stadium. You can't have the shop open the way that it was open before. So you've got folk who go online and buy things, but you didn't have the impulse buyers. And you didn't have the impulse buyers who will go on a match day and go in and buy stuff. You can't sell any hospitality. Like you say about the walk-up. So even you've got, so I think we're at 8,500 or 9,500 season tickets. Last season, I think we were nearly at 14,000. So you've got 5,000 season tickets fewer than you had last season. So there's a big cut there. But then our average gate wasn't 14,000. We would be kind of like 16, 17,000, 18,000. So you've got that difference as well to make up. So there's a whole host of things. And I know you're saying there about the streaming the games. I think the agreement that Sky came to with the clubs was that they would let the clubs stream, but capped at the number of season ticket holders that they had for the season just finished. I'm sure that's what I read. So I guess what they're saying there is, the right thing to do is to give your season ticket holders access to the games, but we're not going to let you sell it just willy-nilly because they've still got to protect the rights to the games as a broadcaster.
But then But then again, this is early doors as well, isn't it? So I mean, this might be. I mean, again, TV companies are massive, and like they'll call the shots at the end of the day. But again, throwing out ideas and that. Oh God, I've just had a brain.
Ron Gordon.
Ron Gordon. So I had Rod Petrie in my head. I don't know why I had the tash on. But Ron Gordon, his forte is selling sports on telly. Like that's his bag. So he might be he might be in talks with like Sky or people like that, and maybe ways of generating revenue. Like if we're using Sky Stream, but we're using it via Hibs TV. Is he able to then advertise via Hibs TV and get income in that way to get the people that are watching it to buy online? And I mean, if I'm coming up with these little daft ideas, there's no doubt that these rich people that have maybe a brain than I do come up with you know what I mean?
Do you think that Hibs could explore some sort of beamback option to somewhere where the fans all get together in a stadium or arena or open air venue somewhere where there's a big screen and everyone's 2 meters apart and everyone watches Hibs play and the commentary's coming through? Because I mean, years ago, Hibs beamed back the game to, was it Murrayfield Ice Rink? I don't know how feasible or what the logistics behind something like this would be.
The point, if you were doing that, just get them in Easter Road and save everybody the hassle.
I've got an idea.
So I was thinking about this, but obviously the team are going to be playing at Easter Road, so you couldn't have them at Easter Road, so you need to do it somewhere else. Like I was thinking there, put them at the training centre, make use of that, have people turn up there, but you couldn't have 5,000 people turn up at East Mains looking to watch a beanbag.
What we need to do is we get half the season ticket holders in Easter Road, spread them out. That's probably roughly about socially distant. And then get the other half into Tynecastle because they're not playing to the other half of the year, are they? So we could use their ground.
What, and then swap around? Once the time comes, so they eventually get to start playing round about Halloween?
No, because apart, it's away grounds, isn't it? They're taking the £1 pound away.
Oh, aye. Oh, well. So, in terms of transfer activity, then Hibs had said when they did the wage deferrals that they wouldn't sign anybody until the players were back up to their normal salaries. If the players are agreeing pay cuts, I'm guessing probably part of that agreement will be we'll need to sign some players. I don't know whether that'll be like a one in, one out type arrangement, but do you think, John, that there's any chance that we'll be going into the new season with the squad of players that we have there now?
It'll probably be much the same squad, but with a few departures, I would imagine. Even whether it's part of a cost-cutting measure or even just Jack Ross putting his squad together. I was thinking about this earlier on the day, and maybe one of you guys will be able to correct me. Do you remember when, I think it was after McLeish, but pre-Mowbray, when there was a massive cost-cutting measure that took place at Easter Road, and we weren't playing players like John O'Neill because they were meant to have been on $3,500 a week plus $3,500 appearance money. Was that the collapse of a TV deal?
So I must have been around about that time. So Satanta was the one that collapsed. Satanta went, or we didn't get the Sky deal, and we had massive. That's how we had the golden generation breakthrough.
Well, this is
played because we couldn't afford a proper first team.
I'm sure I've maybe mentioned this before, but while we're in a sort of crisis situation, if you like, if there's going to be players leaving and we've made, as a club, a statement that we're not going to sign anyone until wages are made up to players, why don't we start bringing in players like Jamie Gillan, bring through players from the youth academy? We have a resource there that isn't costing us anything because we're already paying for it. Why not play them? It's going to be, there's every chance that it's going to be a wee bit shit, but I do think that there's an opportunity there that we get to see the fruition of some of the talent that we have in the youth academy.
Aye. Well, we'll not be the only ones, and I'm sure I saw the day that Hamilton had released 17 players.
17?
17. I mean, they'll obviously have to fill up their squad again, but you can't. I mean, Hamilton are a wealthy club anyway at the best of times. Yeah. So you can imagine.
I think Dundee are looking for a loan to pay. I'm sure I read in the article that they're waiting on. No, not a loan. They're waiting on insurance. To pay fans back for like season ticket. So I don't even think they can afford to pay back the ones that refunded asked for the refund for the season ticket. So I mean, there's a lot of clubs. It's all just kind of come out today, and it's like they're all. I mean, we expected it. in a sense. But
well, there's nobody immune. I'm sure I saw something that Neil Lennon said the Celtic players had agreed to take a pay cut, and they're looking at loan deals for players for next season. So, and Celtic are by far and away the wealthiest club in Scotland. So, if they're feeling the pinch, that's going to roll down. And
I think I don't know if any of you guys watched the English football that was played just the other night there, but the one thing that I thought was quite telling, and you'll be able to correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I've heard any top flight English clubs talking about wage cuts or having to, tighten the purse strings or anything like that. But then as you looked around the
Chelsea just
Etihad,
bought that German boy, didn't they?
Aye, Timo Werner. And as you looked around the Etihad the other night, it was just sponsor after sponsor, like seat coverings. And I think it just shows how much of a gulf there is between top flight in Scotland and top flight in England.
Well, the thing with the English clubs is because of the TV deal that they've got, they're not reliant on gate money at all. So you could take who's the one that who's Eddie Howe, the manager at
Bournemouth.
Bournemouth. So I'm sure Bournemouth have got a smaller ground than us. I think we've got a higher average attendance in Bournemouth.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter to them. They could have 2 man and a dog turn up to watch the games because they get so much money for the TV. They're kind of immune to it. This is the reason why I think the rush to the Premiership starting up again. Is because if you look, we're having to pay.
Sorry,
Sky, we're having to pay Sky. I think it was $2 million and BT
each year, innit?
Aye, something like that, to compensate them for games lost. And if you think of the money that goes into the Premiership, how much that compensation would have been to Sky and BT and whoever else streams their games would be huge. That's why they're finishing their season.
I did wonder if there was ever to be another NTL, Setanta, whatever it was going to look like. Was it ITV Digital? Was that the one that Scotland the way back?
They were the champion. They killed the championship in England.
Yeah,
the lower leagues. That was the big deal that they took, was for the lower leagues in England.
So I've long held this thought that the Premiership and English football is just built on this house of cards. I mean, as much as I'm talking about the top flight, there's been quite a few clubs down in England that have gone through administration, if not repeated administrations, and I thought that something like this would impact on them. But touch wood, it doesn't seem to have happened yet, and it might just be because of what you're saying there before, Matty, that they get so much money from TV deals that the rest of it, the walk-ups, the season tickets, the folk buying merchandise and whatnot, it's a drop in the ocean in comparison.
Aye. Right. One of the things that's come on the back anyway for the news, Hibs having to make the cuts is a kind of wave of support for Hibernian Supporters Limited, or as it used to be called, it's Hibernian Supporters now. As we were mentioning before, 500 odd new sign-ups since Monday, which is fantastic. There had always been a wee bit kind of scepticism and cynicism around HSL. I don't know, what are your thoughts on it, Craig? How's your view of HSL been over the years?
Well, I joined HSL when it first came out. Done all that. And to be honest, I changed my email address, and I just completely forgot about it. I went away working and all that sort of business. But I went back on it the other day because you'd mentioned the whole third strip business. And I was like, oh, I'm sure I paid into that. I'll see if my name's on it. Turns out it was.
Happy
I went
days.
back on it. But happy. The closest I'll ever get to getting on a Hibs trip anyway. But I went back onto the website and it was still talking about taking fan ownership and buying shares in the club and all that. And I think the thing with HSL was maybe it was a great idea at the time, and it was run pretty well. But with the incoming Ron Gordon, maybe they were a wee bit behind the mark and kind of remarketing and figuring out what the idea was to move on for them once they were told, oh, your original plan isn't going to happen. And I know that you've spoke to one of the guys on there, so I won't go too much into it. But I think once fans get sold what it actually is, and the fact that it's just a way to donate directly to the club, and the club aren't actually any part of it. It's a way for fans to direct money to the club, directly to the club, directly to the first team if they so wish. It's not like the begging bowls out. We're asking, oh, please give us money. It's just if you can and if you really want to, this is the avenue to do it.
Aye.
I think, as you say, 500 extra members since Monday. Like, you know, I think with a wee bit better marketing or a wee bit better publicising or whatever the fucking word is.
PR.
Yeah, that's the one. I think it'll flourish.
What about you, John?
I signed up. I wasn't previously a member, but I'd seen a tweet flying about, and I think it was maybe referencing a thread on Hibs.net, but I signed up straight away. Working from home, like I've not got the usual sort of fuel costs, not going to Easter Road, I'm not buying the usual pie or whatever, so it seemed like a reasonable avenue for me to just give a little bit. Aye, I mean, I've said before on the podcast that I'm suspicious is maybe a strong word. It's the wrong word. I'm reluctant to hand over more money than, say, a season ticket per year. Maybe buying a shirt or buying other merchandise or doing other things. But throughout this time, I'm one of the ones that's probably been fortunate in terms of working from home. I've not been furloughed. I've not been laid off or anything like that. And there is a little bit left over, once I've done with the regular bill. So I bought the season ticket because I wanted to go and see Hibs, and I'm handing over a little bit more money because I want there to be a Hibs to go and see at the end of it. And we're talking about shortfalls in income, and I'm not saying that Hibs fans will make up 5 million in lost revenue or whatever, but if we can do something to bring us out that wee bit stronger when things kick up and start off proper again, then I think it should do it.
It's one of these. I'll play the interview. So I spoke to Jim Adie earlier on today. I'll play that in a minute. But one of the points that I made to him is about whether it's possible to find a philanthropist like Arts did. With the is it James Anderson? Is that the guy's name? That also donated money to Scottish football. And so I suppose if there are any philanthropist, multi-millionaire Hibs fans that obviously listen to Longbangers, should point out, I don't think there's a maximum for your monthly donation to HSL. So if you sign up, I'm sure you can put plenty of money in.
Would it be totally outrageous for us to give Tom Farmer a wee call again?
Imagine. He's probably got the number blocked there just in case that happened. As soon as he saw the crisis coming, he was like, quick,
fucking well shot at him.
Change your phone supplier, quick.
He's got his slippers on and cigars out. He's like, yes.
Timed that perfectly. Right, what I'll do is I caught up with Jim Adie from Hibernian Supporters earlier on, and here's the short interview that I had with him.
Well, I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Jim Adie from Hibernian Supporters. Jim, how are you today?
I'm terrific, thank you very much.
Good. And are you still in Spain?
I am, yeah. I've came out of quarantine a few weeks ago, but anybody who knows me they'll know that I carry a wee bit puppy fat, and unfortunately, this dreadful illness has been having a big impact on, people of my persuasion, shall we say. So I've been very lucky. I've got a place down here I've had for many years, and it's a wee village in the middle of nowhere. It's had no recorded cases.
Oh, magic!
And I've just tried to keep myself out of harm's way. I'm very lucky, and I know that.
Sounds great. So, what's your background and your involvement with Hibernian Supporters, Jim?
I've been involved right from the very beginning. The very, very first involvement was many years ago at the start of East Mains, and having a conversation with Rod Petrie. I can't even remember exactly what I was really cheesed off with something. I think it was when Riordan went to Celtic,
right? And
I had a real bee in my bonnet and picked up the phone to have a moan. And Rod Petrie, I was very surprised. He phoned me back and said, "Well, come in, have a cup of tea, say what you've got to say." I did that, went in, had a real moan, groan, and the conversation kind of developed. And it was essentially about how they hadn't been able to attract engagement from fans, etc., and I said to him at the time, well, people are very reluctant to engage, and why should ordinary fans just hand their money over and see nothing in return? And he said, well, it doesn't have to be like that, Now, I think it was just about the time that they had just acquired the land, the East Mains, and they were quite keen to get fans on board to help with that. And I said to him, well, maybe if that was in their own name, if fans felt that this was going to be owned by them, maybe they would react different. And needless to say, Rod being Rod, he turned it around and threw it back to me. And he said, well, we would do it if you think fans would come up with the money. Now, we explored a few things at that time. I had a chat with, shall we say, some of the wealthier guys that I knew. And they were quite happy to become involved. And another person sort of spoke to sort of fan groups to see if the foot soldiers would chip in. For one reason or another, it didn't quite work out, and Rod said, "Thank you for your efforts, but if you can't come up with the money, then obviously the club itself needs to progress." And that's how it went on. And I never spoke to him for many years until about 2015. And if you remember, I think Leanne had come in the summer, and there was a real, I think it's fair to say, a poor relationship between the fans and the club. And there was other people around who were trying to think about getting involved in ownership issues, and some of those combined with fan ownership. And Rod had phoned me and said, "Are you guys still around? Are you still interested?" Yeah. And I said, "Well, yes, we were." And it was people like Charlie and Jackie and Gordon. So they put a proposal to us, which was not quite the shape it is right now. There was one or two amendments made, and we decided to step forward and combine with the club with what is now known as Hibernian Supporters. And the rest, I suppose, is history.
Yeah. And so the club find themselves in a different position to today as it was back then. So in between that time, we've had Ron Gordon take over the club, and obviously there's no shares to buy now. How did that impact things with Hibernian Supporters?
Well, the biggest impact, of course, was when, as part of the acquisition, the remaining shares which had been authorised under the previous regime were bought by Ron, and that meant that we were slightly diluted, but more importantly, there was no longer brand new shares available from the club available to us to buy. So that brought us to a fairly abrupt halt. We then immediately kind of thought, where do we go from here? Our objectives had not changed, and therefore we sought to try and acquire shares from small shareholders, many small shareholders, from the very, very first time round when Sir Tom bought the club. And a number of those people offered to give us their shares free of charge. Some of them offered to sell us the shares to help us trying to get to the 20%. But the board, announced that they were happy with the way that the shareholder was at the time, and that the board would not authorise any transfer of shares from that day onwards. And we obviously, at that point, in being consistent in terms of absolute transparency, we immediately emailed all our members and donators and said, here's the position. From this day on, we can't acquire shares, and therefore, until we can relook at it, get into a discussion with the club about where we go forward. At the very minute we knew that money had to be handed to the club with no shares in return, we made that clear to people, so that meant that those people who were on board with us, very committed to acquiring shares, had the opportunity to stop their direct debit and not hand money to us under false pretenses. So that's what happened. It's not ideal how events have unfolded, but we have unfortunately often been in the position of having to react to events that were not of our making.
And do you think though there's opportunity there that I mean, I remember thinking back to the time when it launched. You had a section of fans who thought, oh, we're not really bothered about fan ownership, and it was almost like a barrier to them contributing. Today, in the shape of the club's finding itself due to coronavirus, Hibernian Supporters is pretty much a vehicle just to kind of gather money and hand it over to the club. It's a really kind of clear message. Do you think that will help you attract new donors?
Yes, very much so. And kind of we were taken by surprise. Obviously, we don't have any board representation. So when the announcement was made by the club, that was a surprise to us. And the first we heard of it was when we had people emailing into us, phoning in to say, look, we want to help. You're there. We know that you're already handing money over to the club every month. We want to add more. So, as a group of directors, we feel that now is not the time to put any impediment or have any discussion about rights and wrongs of what's gone in the past. It would be totally inappropriate to be doing that right now. We've got the infrastructure, we've got the vehicle, and if people want to donate the money, we're happy to be used in that way. We don't want it to be kind of misrepresented, however, and I want to make it crystal clear. The club haven't approached us. Nobody from the club, Leanne or Ron, nobody's come to us with a begging bowl and asking for money, asking us to launch any initiative. It couldn't be further from the truth. That has not happened. It is our own members and other supporters that have approached us and said, would you be willing to be used as a means by which to get some money into the club? And what kind of Hibs supporters would we be if we said no, we're not happy to be used in that way? So what we want to make sure is, as long as people know what's going on, know what's happening with their money right now, despite the fact our objectives are laid out in the articles, we feel that as long as we make it clear to people, your money is not being used to acquire shares at the moment. We're just simply handing the money over to the club right now at this difficult period. All we can do is make that clear to people. We know it's a really difficult time. There's people being made redundant. There's more redundancies still to come. Our Adie fans are struggling as it is. So we do not think it's appropriate to be going out making appeals or anything like that. The club have not indicated that there's any emergency. The club have just simply said, we've looked at the finances right now and we've looked at how it's likely to be going forward, and they're being proactive, and what they're understandably doing is to say we're going to have to make adjustments now to ensure that we remain healthy. So we don't want to be part of any sort of panic, because
that's true.
There's no panic. So I just want to set the record straight on that, and hopefully I've done so.
So I was looking on Hibs.net earlier on, and it's interesting you mentioned there about kind of not really having the desire to go out as an appeal, because it looks like there's a wee bit of an appetite from the fans for one. I saw one suggestion which was 10,000 tenors. Like a kind of campaign to get 10,000 people donating £10 each monthly, which obviously would make a huge difference to the club. Is that something you would consider?
Well, I'm only a director, and directors of the organisation are there to react to what the members want. And if the members say, look, this is what we want to do right now, then that's it.
Yeah.
So be it. And what we've got to make sure is, as long as people understand this is what's happening with your money. And I stress that because it is a bit confusing at the moment, because we are an entity that's objectives is primarily to get as many shares in the club as possible. And that's what we are at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I can't change that overnight. So we just don't want people to be misled and believe that this is what's happening with their money. And provided that people are not misled, and we can put a message up temporarily to say, look, this is a situation, then I think everybody is fine with that.
I think so as well, and I think you've had quite a good reaction from what I gather for people volunteering help and time and ideas to kind of support things at the moment. How have you noticed a big difference there?
Absolutely, and we will take that help. And I've had various calls from people with different ideas and suggestions, and we've said yes to everything. The things like the website, and obviously we had a major review of that last year, and we'd gone out and employed a web developer. Clearly, as events have changed and unfolded, we've had that in mind, that we need to get that revised, etc. But at the same time, we realised we didn't want to really just make ad hoc changes, little bits here and there. We need to try and get something, a permanent change, a clear understanding of what we are, where we're going, what the members want us to be. But we'll just park that issue for the time being.
Yeah.
We can make one or two cosmetic adjustments. Certainly, I'm hearing one or two pictures need to get removed quite quickly. So we'll get that done. That'll probably take us a few days. Just really about availability of people who can actually do the mechanics of that.
Yeah.
But we can get that done quite quickly, and some other messages. But thereafter, I mean, in terms of if we've got people who can help us with the website, and we don't have to keep going back and forward spending thousands of pounds on techie type stuff, we would welcome that. Of course we would. Perfect.
And there's been news in Scottish football kind of this last couple of weeks with the benefactor that's been propping Hearts up, kind of supporting Scottish football as well. What do you think the chances of finding a benefactor for Hibs are? Do you think there's anybody out there that we could tap into?
When you say benefactor, do you mean what do you mean?
Well, do you know is it James Anderson? I think the guy just kind of gives Hearts money, and he just donated a couple of million to Scottish football. I don't know if you saw that story.
I did indeed, and it was probably one of those things that was kind of there was a rumour floating around, who was this mystery person?
Yeah,
and it was probably one of the worst kept secrets around. Obviously, I am aware that there are wealthy Hibs folk around who, from what I can understand, have already assisted. But obviously, it's really only Leanne would know exactly who they are and how much they've helped out. And indeed, our owner, Ron Gordon, I think has thrown his weight behind that as well.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of things that are on the web. What's the principal owner doing, and what's he do this, that, the next thing. I think we just need to give everybody a wee bit space and time, and to do what they want to do and are already doing. And I think all we can do is to stick to the stuff that we know about and what we can or can't do.
Yeah.
and I keep stressing, I would like to think, Matty, that over the years, you're never going to please every Hibs supporter. It's just not possible because you have such a wide range of opinions. But I've always taken the view as a director of this organisation that all I can do is to demonstrate trust. And I'd like to think that over the last 5 years, we've developed that with people who've got to know myself and the other directors. Is the one thing I think we have developed. We may have made mistakes along the road with this, that, the next thing. I think we have attracted the trust of people that will never misuse their money, will never say, give us your money for this and then go do something else. And that's our role, is to do exactly that. Take care of the money that people have gifted to us and do with the money what they've asked us to do. And as long as we do that, then we've not failed our fellow supporters.
Yeah. And just to kind of close off then, Jim, what message would you have for anybody who was considering donating?
Well, I would say that, like any other, Hibs supporter, if you feel that you're in a position and that you want to step forward and simply just hand the money at the club, money to the club, then please feel free to do so. But don't feel pressured or anything at all. The stark reality, there's much, much more important things in life. And as I said at the beginning, people have losing their jobs are sadly still to lose their jobs. And therefore, these things are the important things. And don't dream about giving money either via us or to the club that you can't afford. Only donate and give if you've got the spare money, and if you even feel inclined to do it. Don't feel pressured into doing it. As I said, we don't want the situation to be misunderstood. We're not putting a message out that the club themselves haven't put out. The club haven't put out the begging bowl, and we're not there to do it on their behalf. But we're supporters, and obviously, if fellow supporters want to hand some money in through this very difficult trading period, then well, why would we try and stop that? We wouldn't.
Perfect. Okay, Jim, thanks very much for your time. It's been great to speak to you. We'll hopefully get you back on the podcast further down the line, and we'll see kind of how things transpired over this period. But enjoy the rest of your time in Spain. Stay safe, and thanks very much for joining us.
Not a problem.
Right, so it was really nice of Jim to join us. Hope everybody kind of found that interesting. And one of the key points he was making there, it was about the club aren't pushing this. This drive is and momentum has totally come for supporters who have kind of taken the bull by the horns and are trying to encourage other people to go. The club haven't contacted Hibernian supporters to ask for money. There's been no account details published on the website begging people to donate like another club did. So we hope that happens. Right, next thing that's been topical has been court battles and court orders and things like that. So who wants to start on that shit show?
John.
Well, I was saying to you guys earlier, I think, what day did we say it was? In fact, tell you what, let me get my phone out, because I thought that this was a really, really good point, even though it was one of mine. And it was to say that we did a podcast on the 10th of April that we titled the show "A Protracted Farce," when we were talking about how the league was going to be resolved. And here we are, 70 days later, on June the 19th, and we're talking about three sets of lawyers going up against two sets of lawyers after, who was it, Cove Rangers, Wraith Rovers and Dundee United have appointed their lawyers to go up against Hearts and Partick Thistle's lawyers.
And then in the middle of that, you've got the SFA as well. They've set in their guns. Did you just say it was 70 days there? 70
days. I wanted to make that point.
Wow, excellent.
Just a happy coincidence there.
Timed that perfectly.
Honestly, I want to try and find a WWE analogy for the three lawyers up against the two lawyers, where the SFA stand in the middle like some sort of evil Vince McMahon coordinating it all.
I didn't get that reference there. I watched WWE. I'm going to ask the Bears.
You've watched it at some point, didn't you, lie?
Have they?
Never.
Do you know when you were wee, right? And you were watching Dukes of Hazzard or whatever, and your old man come through, turn that piss off. Well, that's effectively what happens if it ever comes to the WWE's on. I'm like, fucking turn that off.
I just never watched it because it was shite.
Aye, nonsense. Anyway, I'm sure it's popular with loads of folk. The folk will have their reasons for liking the sweaty men in pants grappling each other. Anyway,
that's the title of the podcast.
Sweaty men in pants. I wonder if it will get more hits than the chunky teen redheads did. The funny, see, we put the last episode up on YouTube. What was that called? South Korean sex dolls.
Oh yeah.
250 hits on YouTube. It got, like, I think the previous episodes it had like 8, 6, whatever. 251. I'm not sure if that was the name of the title. But
young boys that searching sex on YouTube, and they come up to us and they've been traumatized about wanking for life. Never again.
Sweaty men in pants. Right, we'll go for that. I lost my chain of thought. Now, what were we talking about? Oh, right, the fast. Well, one of the amazing things I saw today. And this is like, when you have a utopian scenario coming up, was UEFA apparently have told associations that next season, so for the coming season, they can run without promotion or relegation, so to support teams through financial difficulty. So you didn't have a team having to spend loads of money to try and get out of league, going up the way, and you didn't have a team shiting themselves that they're going to get relegated and have to cut costs. Now, how fucking funny would it be if Hearts, after all this, found themselves in the Championship and got told, by the way, next season, you're still going to be there regardless?
I've got no words, I've just got a stoner. It's class,
Gorgie would implode. Tynecastle would implode.
You feel like kind of breaking curfew and going through to Gorgie just to end yourself on the windows. Have it.
I mean...
Oh dear. The whole thing's fucking unbelievable, isn't it? I mean, do you know what? I fucking love ripping into them, and it's class, but this could have all been handled a lot better. Like, I'm not saying that the outcome could have been different, but the whole fact that it started with that farcical vote and the surround, like, the media surrounding it, and then Rangers coming out with that statement calling for heads, and you forget that even happened, didn't you? It's wild, but that set everybody against each other, didn't it? So whatever was going to be discussed, it was always, oh well, no, because you said this and you done that, and you said this and you done that, and then it came down to, I think the final straw for Anne Budge and that was or the last throw of the ball, whatever, was they were trying to turn it into Scottish football against the Scottish football club, against the betterment of Scottish football. When really, if there was no kind of argument for day one in that, it would have been difficult discussion. But you've got to go into these things and say, right, listen, we haven't been talking about reconstruction for a while. It should kind of be on the table because the fans really do want change. Like, what's the best way we can do this? And they should have sat down for a good length of time. And I mean, a good length of time. And it shouldn't have been Budge at the head of it for a start. It should have been a group of people at the head of it for a start. All right, maybe involve some of the teams that are part of the relegation and promotion fight and all that. But teams fight with as well, and just say, listen, we need, and get Sky in and get everybody in and say, we need to try and do something here for the betterment of the game as a whole, whether that be an 18-team league or whatever. This isn't it, like, we could talk about that all day. But coming out with like a 14-team fucking league, saying it's for the better of Scottish football when you were going to have 8 teams bottom of the split fighting for nothing, losing even more money, the money that was being split between clubs being less. It was just bullshit. And then to try and make it anything other than we're trying to save our own skin without saying it, you're just trying to pull the wool over people's eyes in. Like, nobody bought it. There was this whole big thing, like, I think it's that Keradine or whatever his name is on Twitter. He's seems to me like quite a decent reporter. He comes out with what he hears at the time.
Yeah.
And at the time, he was coming out and saying, there seems to be real interest and all that. What was it?
16 clubs across all the leagues. Aye.
You know what I mean? And it just goes to show, and it's not just that 16 clubs. It was bullshit. You know what I mean? It was bullshit that was brought up. And all right, I mean, if Hibs were in that situation, right, put ourselves into that position in the league, we'd be raging. Of course we would, and we'd be fighting tooth and nail to say it's unfair and we need to stay up. I get that. 100% get that. But you can't turn around and say that this 14-team league last minute better for Scottish football. Piss off. You know what I mean? It was for the betterment of yourself.
Aye. And
it hasn't worked. And you've been pumped. So get it right fucking up.
The thing I thought about it, right, is, and somebody had quoted however many teams, I can't remember the exact figure, but there was, say, 15 teams in the league who had no impact whatsoever, whether it happened or not. They would have stayed in the same division. They weren't affected by who went up or who went down. It had no impact. Voted against it. And they voted against it because it was a shite proposal. And I think that's the bit that's been missed from it, is they talked about through this, how does it impact Hearts and Partick, and it's no fair, Partick had a game in hand, which, by the way, is a false argument anyway, because it went on points per game, which averaged out the number of points. So even if you had a game in hand, so St Johnstone had a game in hand on us, and they went above us by that system, because when you averaged out, they were slightly better than we were. So it's like a false argument, but they kind of kept casting it up, which either shows that they didn't understand how it was calculated, or they just blinkered it. But then there was no discussion or conversation about, like, how does this league work? If you get 14 teams in it, what does it look like? How does it impact? Is it even something that fans would want? Never mind what it does financially, but as a punter, are you wanting to go and split the season halfway through? You've only played Rangers and Celtic twice. You've only played Hearts twice, so if they'd stayed up, you know, and then it's like pot luck whether you're going to play them another two times or not at all. It was a fucking ridiculous idea.
I think half the problem as well was, as you say, with the media being so one-sided on it, it was put forward as if, you know, the clubs are doing these clubs that are getting relegated a disservice, and it's putting everybody else down and all that. But what they were asking clubs, were saying clubs should just vote because it's unfair that they were getting. And all right, it's slightly unfair, right? But the thing is, with it being unfair, something would have had to have happened, because it's a fucking pandemic. It's not like somebody's just decided, we'll bin it.
Aye. And
it's been proven now, with all the loanees disappearing and all that sort of business, that the league would never have been finished. So let's just put that to fucking bed. It's gone, right? But they're asking people of the board they kept saying, we understand that the board are there to represent and stand up for their club as a business, but they should vote for the better of these teams because it's unfair. But then that's voting against them as a business.
Aye, it's contradictory.
They're voting for something that's going to either lose them money or piss off their fans. And people say, oh, well, the fans are fickle anyway. If you piss off the fans, they don't buy the season tickets. You can't pay your staff wages. You're telling, or you're saying that it's wrong that a club votes a certain way in the media, this is, because it's unfair. Then who would it be unfair on if they voted the other way? It would be unfair on, you know, the fans, possibly the staff, their own business. So you can't. And I understand it all came back to, it should have been handled better. The SPFL, SFA, or whoever it is, should have got involved and should have handled it better. And I understand that the SPFL is the clubs, right? I get that. But as a governing body, the representatives of those clubs who work for the SPFL should have all got together and just been like, right, this is a fuck fest. We need to do something fair for it. Like, you know what I mean? But they just put it straight out to the boards. And then chairman and that are in the media. They had I can't remember who it was. It was like the United chairman or something like that. Was on the first one on the Sports Sound, the day when they called for Neil Doncaster's head, and then because he's been on there, somebody else just came out and says, well, he's mentioned that WhatsApp group. She said this, he said that. And then it just became a big public bitch fest, which was embarrassing. It should have been nipped in the bud by the SPFL at that level. I'm not saying that the outcome could be any different or whatever, but it should have been more fucking professional and more grown up. And then the media, they just took wholly one side. And maybe that's because a lot of them are ex-footballers and that, and they can see it. If they were in that club, if they were playing in that club, or they worked for that club, and this was happening to them, I get that. But you've also got to look at the other side, eh? And this is why it's so polarised, because the media is so polarised. The chairman didn't help himself, and at the end of the day, the SPFL, they just didn't help themselves because they let it get out of hand, and now it's past the point of no return, eh?
What do you think will happen, John?
Fuck knows. Honestly, did you ever think when we had that conversation back in April, or even before that, when we had, I can't remember when it was, when did St Mirren play Hearts and John Obika scored the goal that ultimately sent them down?
Well, it was like that was the last game of the season, wasn't it? Like the Friday night. That was a belter as well, by the way, because if that game had been on Saturday, or Hearts still would have been bottom, wouldn't they?
Aye. So I'm thinking back then and thinking, did anyone in their wildest dreams imagine that the league, did anyone imagine there was going to be lawyers involved, that were going to be thrashing out fucking 10 million compensation deals split 80-20 in favour of Hearts?
There's a point, by where the fuck is where it started?
Let's talk about this.
It started at 3 million, right, and it's ended up at 10 million. It's gone up to 1 million. Where the fuck's this?
What interest rate is that, by the way?
Where the fuck this number came from? What does Celtic get for winning the league?
3 million. 3.2.
3.2, I think it is.
So
they want
one of the questions.
Them.
One of the questions I wanted to ask about that 8 million quid was that, and obviously we're ripping it a wee bit now because it's outrageous, but one of the things that Hearts said, and you guys will be able to correct me if I'm wrong, one of the things that Hearts said was that they thought that no club should be worse off as a result of ending the league early. So how is it? How have they managed to turn a situation around where they're going to be 8 million quid richer?
It's mental. Because
it's bizarre.
Even if you try to break it down, I had a go at it. And I thought, right, well, surely they can't even talk about lost revenue for gate receipts, because everybody's losing money for gate receipts. Like, you can't go to a stadium. So whether they were in the top league or the bottom league, or whether it was a 14-team league or whatever, they're not getting fans through the stadium, so through the gates. So they've not lost any money disproportionately to what they would have otherwise. If they did kick off to October, all they've done is they've saved costs, because they're still not going to have fans in October. So it can't be that. And then the associated hospitality, the season tickets look like they're on, or they're going to keep up with last season's anyway. The donations from Foundation of Hearts have gone up, so they're actually better off there. They should be paying everybody else for it. Thanks very much. Weird quids in on the back of this.
I was about to say, maybe we should sue them for the distress and inconvenience of this pish.
Well, I tell you what, they drew me for some new pairs of pants for the amount of times I've pished myself laughing at them.
Aye, so I don't know where it's going to end up, but if nothing else, it's going to lead to a few, when football does resume, and it will resume, it's going to lead to some very interesting encounters and some good old-fashioned Scottish hatred across the terraces.
Yes, that's what you want. That's what you go to football for.
Yeah,
it's going to get.
I can't wait for it.
You forget who you hate and why you hate them.
Aye, brilliant.
Rangers.
It'll just be everybody. But Rangers must be laughing. You make a good point, Craig. They did that kid, they were talking about bullying, and there was all these allegations that everybody's just totally forgot happened, because
I've actually written this down here on
mere mental.
Forgotten story arc. Rangers demanding resignation.
And what they forget is they binned Jim Traynor. They brought in that boy for the Orange Lodge over in Northern Ireland.
He's a boy kicking about George Square.
That was his first statement. That was his first statement. I want the head of the SPFL and his lawyer. Brilliant. You know what I mean? He's sitting there fat, dumb and happy. Cigars out. You know what I mean?
And, well, what's his name? Is Doncaster, who they wanted to resign. What's the position he's just been appointed to at UEFA?
He's got a job.
Bullying and harassment or something like that.
That's ultimate trolling for UEFA. They're like, well, we'll just take this for the man.
I don't know if I could fish.
Well, I've no idea how it's going to go. I can't see Hearts winning the league. I mean, obviously, I'm not a legal minded. You can tell through the podcast the level of intelligence that we've all got. No offence to used to. But you look at it, I think that you can't see realistically where the SPFL haven't they followed rules. Based on what's been reported, they've had votes that have gone out to the members. They've used UEFA-approved methods of calculating games. They've done things on sport and merit, which is what UEFA wanted to happen. I didn't see where there's a case. Like you couldn't no promote Dundee United and to keep Hearts up. Like the fair thing is promote one and relegate one. And although it sucks if you're the relegated one, that's still the right thing to do.
Tonight's been the closest I've been to breaking the number one rule of Longbangers, and that's doing research before coming on. Because people kept touting about the French and Belgian league going to court and then them ruling it legal or illegal or whatever, and that saws up shit creek now. And I nearly researched what's the difference between their rules and ours and why, to kind of get a layman's term or kind of look into it. And I don't know, but surely the fact that we all voted on it, you know what I mean?
That's the big thing. But the French top flight have gone back and said they've looked at it because what the court didn't rule that they couldn't relegate them. But what they said is you need to go away and have a look and see if you can have a bigger league to keep them in it. So they've gone ahead and done it. And today they went back and said no, we can't. So they wanted them to look at a 22-team league. They said no, due to our sponsorship deals and everything, 20 is the maximum that we can have. So the team's going to get relegated anyway. So it's no. Again, it's the lack of the decent quality reporting that folk didn't see the nuances to the story because you had the Hearts fans who were all over it. The other thing to note is the Dutch leagues gave out compensation to teams that could have qualified for Europe or were in cups, but the amounts that they were getting were like a couple $100,000. It was certainly a far cry for 8 million.
No.
And this was for good teams, teams who would get a lot of prize money, no teams who were sitting at the bottom of the league.
Maybe they've got Leslie Deans up at the top with that wee fucking voice of his.
By the way, they put a picture of him, if it was like the evening news on the BBC, but where's his neck? He's like proper kind of Sandy Toksvig Mark II.
I was going to ask something. Oh, I remember what it was. So there's a Dundee United fan that I follow on Twitter, and he was saying something along the lines of, how are you going to tell someone who's been at the top of the league for like all but one game of the season that their contribution, their efforts were invalid and it was just going to be ruled null and void? Do any of you guys happen to know, and I know that the number one rule is that we did a research fuck all before we come on, but is a percentage of the games played, what was it, 30 games that we played in the SPL?
Aye. So
how many games were Hearts to the bottom?
I don't know how many there were at the bottom, but I had somebody on Twitter earlier on. I seen a comment, and it was somebody. It was something about the league being stopped and all that, and somebody commented on it saying, "But it was done on an average points fair basis that UEFA said or whatever." And some Hearts fan had replied to it, and it says, we may as well just finish it on a home game, home game stats alone. Then So I went up and searched it online, and it turns out that with their average home wins, they were still bottom, so they've been pumped anyway.
I think they were definitely, bottom at the turn of the year, because I'm sure there was a stat. It says that the team that's bottom at Christmas, I think there's only been 1 year in the last 16 or something where that team hasn't been relegated.
Yeah, I think you're right there.
Aye. So
I think it was only really the beginning of the season where we were kind of chopping and changing, weren't we? When he who shall not be named.
Again, so there's another forgotten story arc. Paul Heckenbottom.
Paul Heckenbottom, he'd be laughing as well. His reputation's restored just for folk being sick.
Just forgotten.
He actually came out on Twitter the other day, didn't he? Was he punting Alan Stevenson?
Alan Stevenson. Yeah. I thought it was good of him to do that. Like I actually, he was obviously a nice enough guy. He had feelings to the man. Yeah. Right, I think we should probably wrap up. I think we've hit about an hour for the podcast. I think that's about enough punishment for people that have tuned in. Craig, John, thanks very much for joining me tonight. We'll hopefully have some stuff to update on in a podcast in the near future. I wouldn't want to say it'll be next week because nothing might happen in the next week, and then we'll have fuck all to talk about. So we'll wait for something to happen, whether it's hilarious or otherwise, and then we'll record another one then. So thanks everybody for tuning in and listening, and stay safe, and we'll see you next time.